Welcome back to Sports Rap Live, everybody. First and foremost, got to send a shout out to the Austin Rat Pack, ATX Rat Pack, checking in at Soul Fresco. Those boys are over there listening to the show live right now. So, what up, Keeks? What up, Julian? What up, Rodney? Everybody out there holding it down on 6th Street in Austin, Texas. You can hear Sports Rap Live before you go out to the bar on a Thursday night. So I think it's only fitting. Also, shout out to the Above All Show and Dirty South Radio Online. I know my man Swag I Am's out there checking us out or listening to the podcast. Just want to recognize them for holding us down in Austin. And you know what? In Austin, there's a lot of Cowboys fans. So it's only fitting right now that we talk about the Cowboys and their opportunity to clinch this division weeks ago. But they want to make it dramatic, and they want to play the Giants for a one-game playoff for the NFC East.
What have I been saying about the Giants? They've been my team from the beginning.
And you also said that they would be up and down all season long.
I did. And when it's time to get hot, they kind of try to get hot. When you think you have it figured out, you don't. They're kind of the NFC version of the Chargers. You think you haven't figured it out for a while, and then they kind of they get a change up on you.
Isn't that ironic that Eli could have been the quarterback for the Chargers?
I'll tell you right now, though, I give the Cowboys no chance this weekend.
Wow, not even on Pimp C's birthday?
Well, it's on his birthday. Definitely no chance.
Oh, man.
No, I know if he was watching, he would probably be wilding out, being like,
he's watching.
Yeah,
sure.
Being like, he just be cursing him, these Cowboys out, because they're so frustrating to watch, because you see the talent out there, but it's not consistent talent. And you watch I think the big advantage in this game is the coaching. Jason Garrett, we've seen this guy flub so many times at the end of the games, these late clock, game management situations of getting a field goal, getting timeouts and first downs and trying to manage the game. He really doesn't know what he's doing. He really looks like a rookie head coach. Whereas you look at like Tom Coughlin, I mean, he's been there before. He's won a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that he's any much better. I'm just thinking that he has more experience, so at least he's probably, could have some chance of trying to figure it out. Plus, I also think that Hakeem Nicks being healthy for this game, they have the whole complement of wide receivers healthy for this game.
Yep.
I think there's going to be zero defense in this game. No defense at all. But I just like to give the advantage to the Giants, mostly because their running backs are healthy. The Cowboys, we don't know what's wrong with Fields.
And I'm going to give them credit with the whole Jets game with, talk is cheap. Coughlin just went gangster on everybody.
Yeah.
Nah, he's ready to rock and roll.
And this is going to be their, third home game in a row?
Their talent, yeah, exactly. Their talent is so identical, and I'm not saying that Eli's got to step up on Romo. He's got a ring. He's got a little more experience. But talent-wise, both sides of the ball, it's very, very similar. So it comes down to coaching, and it comes down to discipline and quarterback
Here's
play.
the other thing is I hated whenever Romo, after he got his hand hurt, they said he could have come back in the game. Why didn't he come back in the game? If you really want to build momentum and try and go into the playoffs on a high note, you have to kind of build up to. You have to show it on the field. You can't just be like, well, we had a good week of practice. Right. If Romo had come back in that game, he did it against the 49ers earlier this year.
He does come back in the game quite a bit.
But I'm saying if he had come back,
you got to grip that ball.
But I hate to see whenever they're like, well, it doesn't matter because it's still going to come down to this week. I hate whenever you're like, okay, we're just going to concede.
We just gave up, right?
Yeah, we're just going to give up and wait till next week because we know next week is when it matters anyway. Why aren't you competing now?
That means you don't want it.
Right.
If you're not competing on every down in every game until you've already clinched something, I have zero faith that they can just turn it on. This Cowboys team cannot turn it on, turn it off.
Well,
that's for sure.
One guy that has not turned it off all season long, Andrew, is Aaron Rodgers. Now, the Packers, they took their lumps against Kansas City, came right back. Rodgers throws 5 touchdowns last week to bring his total to, 46 touchdowns on the season?
I don't know. I can't keep up.
Some ridiculous number.
I mean, he pretty much sealed his case for MVP. They're 15-1. No, they will be 15-1 after this weekend. And, it's funny because in any other year, a guy like Drew Brees, who broke the 27-year-old mark that Dan Marino set in 1984 on a touchdown pass in a perfect Disneyland moment with Darren Sproles, the newest addition, the biggest weapon, catches the touchdown. The guys throw him on the shoulders. He's giving the speech after the game. I'm really curious to see how Green Bay and New Orleans match up in the playoffs.
That's a good dogfight right there.
We saw it on the opening game of the season.
We were right here.
Yeah, it came down to that 4th and goal where they gave it to Mark Ingram and he couldn't. Well, I don't know if it was 4th and goal, but it was a goal line situation and they couldn't get the ball in.
Yeah.
And I've been saying the whole season there are only a handful of teams that can beat them. I really think New Orleans might be a more complete team when you think about it because
they actually have a running game.
Exactly, Gons.
That's the killer because with Kansas City, their thing was do not let Aaron Rodgers play. Like basically run the clock. And if you're able to do a shootout and be able to establish, your clock, that's by far the best team for me.
When we've seen it with New England. When New England gets off of their game plan, they can't really get back on pace and get back to where they need to get on track because they can't run the ball. That's what really has been New England's their reason they've lost a bunch of games in the playoffs. But you look at this New Orleans team, even when they won the Super Bowl, they had a lot of good running backs, a lot of guys who were able to rush the ball. Now they have Mark Ingram, who's going to be healthy and rested up. They're going to have still Chris Ivory and still Pierre
and
Thomas.
the best tight end in football this year.
Yeah, they really, when you think about it, they might not have the best wide receivers. That probably goes to the Packers, but they have a complete offense. I would say their defense is probably on par with maybe the Packers, and that it's not. It's fortunate that teams try and kind of pass their way back into games so they get turnovers.
Right.
But I really hope that the NFC Championship comes down to the Packers versus the Saints, and that I would give the advantage to the Packers only because outside in the elements. If it was in the Superdome, I mean that's pretty much lockdown Saints.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
if it's in Lambeau,
It's gonna be tough for Drew Brees.
if you're gonna win the Super Bowl this year in the NFC, you're gonna have to go to Green Bay and beat them at their place.
Let me ask you this. This was a great question that Bun posed on Twitter the other night. Is this accomplishment for Drew Brees in 15 games of breaking the record? Is it something that should kind of be appreciated but not really glorified because of the new rule changes and the new NFL and the way the quarterback is so protected and guarded almost? Or do we celebrate this record for what it is?
I think you celebrate it for what it is, but we don't know how well it's going to be, how memorable it is, because we need time to kind of go back and kind of retrospect and look back and kind of realize in the moment, maybe this record that he just set, remember it never gets touched for the next 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. We don't know. We don't have that perspective yet to know how big this moment is. I think we should definitely, give him all the props and give him all the respect. But I don't know how big the moment is. It's kind of like when you talk about Dan Fouts, what Dan Fouts is able to do. Really don't think about Dan Fouts in the moment probably because you're like, well, he just did it. But now, years later, it's kind of like, wow, Dan Fouts was right behind Marino. He really did something special.
You need that time to simmer.
Yeah, you do. You need time to reflect.
I mean, no matter what, though, Brees has a ring, and he literally led that team to the Super Bowl championship a couple years ago. Fouts never got a ring. He was more of a numbers, just a stat builder, stat stacker. But you know what? It couldn't happen to a better guy. If somebody's going to do it.
Oh, totally.
And now it's funny. If he doesn't pad that next week, if he doesn't build that.
Rodgers and Brady
could come right behind him and snatch it from him the same season.
That'd be crazy. Brought up a good point. It could be diminished by the fact that 3 quarterbacks could break the record this year.
That's insane.
Which is definitely insane.
Yeah.
But that's what the league has become.
Right.
You have to judge him against his contemporaries. And if he blows out, ends up bringing Rodgers and Brady, you're talking about 2 Hall of Fame. Maybe Brady is the best quarterback ever. Maybe Rodgers is in the top 10, maybe 5. If he blows those guys away, that's pretty elite class.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'll be interesting. I think we're all kind of jumping the cart here and putting the Saints and the Packers in the NFC Championship. But
I agree.
The 2 best teams that we've seen all year long that started off right here on Thursday night at the beginning of the season should be on a collision course to meet each other. Real quick, anybody in the NFC that you thought should have made? We talked a little bit about the AFC locally here in the Texans that should have made the Pro Bowl. Not that the Pro Bowl means anything anymore, but
not really. The one that caught my eye, and
Cam Newton maybe as a third string.
Definitely, Cam Newton. The rookie year he's having is pretty much unprecedented. He is having the season that people, when you think about Andrew Luck, I hope that Andrew Luck even has half the season that Cam Newton is having. And did you guys see the article about?
Well, he won't though because
my major thing with him was how good is he throwing the ball? Because he's good at running the ball.
Yeah.
But as far as being accurate, and boy, did he wake the hell up out of Steve Smith. Because my goodness,
point. So
he totally made me a believer.
And everyone knows.
I totally doubted him.
Everyone knows, Gons, that they're going to pass the ball because their defense doesn't let them get any sort of advantage.
Their defense is horrible.
And their run game, while it's been good in years past, their offensive line isn't good enough to keep him safe or that run game going. So it's really impressive what he's doing. I just wanted to real touch on the Pro Bowl. I thought that the Patrick Peterson pick, while he got on there as a kick returner, that guy has pretty much single-handedly won 2 games for Arizona this year. One against the Cowboys and one against, I think, maybe Seattle. I'm not sure. I don't recall the other game. But, that guy is incredible. Incredible.
Oh, absolutely. He made an impact out of LSU immediately in the NFL, which is great to see. Go ahead.
I want to touch on the Detroit Lions. They put a whooping on the Chargers.
Knocked out the Chargers officially out of the playoffs.
I was really
Turner, goodbye.
Really impressed. This Lions team is doing. When we talk about peaking at the end of the season, that's what this Lions team is doing. Stafford looks legit. He stayed healthy. Megatron is balling out. They have no run game at all. But you look at that far
that defense. Woo!
really, how much different are they? They're kind of a younger version of Green Bay to me, where they just pass all the time. They're in the NFC, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, hey, props to Detroit. That was the first time we got our 30-second window here. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. What?
I think they could create a lot of
Rockets
problems.
up by
That's when those teams.
33.
That's when those teams, Adam, that I could see coming into a building,
When
and you're like,
Dragic is dunking on you, you know it's over.
or if you saw Detroit come in and just hang like 24 in the first half, you'd be like, not surprised.
Game over.
Yeah, pretty
game
much.
over because that defense will stop you. I mean, they'll stop you enough.
And
to
this
win
is
the
a
game.
big time for Ndamukong Suh to step up and really establish himself and get over the hump of all the bad things he did this year and the bad name he got for himself.
Absolutely. Props to Detroit, man. First time since 1997 they've been in the playoffs. Well, hey, we will definitely break down. We'll give you all of our playoff picks next Thursday. We'll go through the tournament, all the seeds, everything will be locked up, ready to go.
Talking about a Texans home playoff game.
Man, hold up. I still can't believe that. The way they've been playing the last couple weeks.
Texans fan, hold up.
They better
man.
step
Hold
it up, man. Step it up. All right, well, hey, let's go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the Martinez report and get into our 4-down territory, start looking at some of these college football games, and then still to come, Kadoma's here. We got our sneak of the week, sneak of the year. Shout out to Scandalous in the building. PB's here. So, man, stick around. A lot more to come here on Sports Wrap Live.